Friends, it's Terri Gaines, independent demonstrator with Stampin Up. In this video tutorial, I'm going to share a decorative panel pop-out fun fold card created with the Floral Delight 12 by 12 designer series paper. This paper is in Stampin Up's January through April mini catalog, and it is absolutely beautiful in person. You have beautiful floral prints on one side, and then these great versatile backgrounds on the other side. For this card, I'm going to be using this print for my decorative panel, and the coordinating designer series paper I'm going to use is going to be the back side of this print, this print here, and then my card base color and the cardstock color I'm using is pecan pie. There are many exclusive Stampin' Up! Colors that coordinate with this paper. When I'm done showing you this card, I do have another card created with different colors and different designer series paper in the same pack. When I say different papers, different prints in the same pack. So for the card base, I have it already cut and scored. It's 8.5 by 5.5. It is scored at 2 1/8. That's going to be a mountain fold. 4 1/4 is going to be a valley fold, and 6 3/8 is going to be a mountain fold. So it's going to fold like this. What we want to do is take a bone folder and crease these folds and burnish those. So we're going to burnish the card like this. I'm going to skip down to this decorative layer. Those are 1 7/8 by 5 1/4. You need 2 of them, and that's where I use the designer series paper. Now this could be stamped cardstock, it could be texturized cardstock. I'm going to use the designer series paper. So I've already got that cut, and I'm going to adhere it to the end panels. So this is about 1/8 of an inch spacing on all sides. I'm going to look at top, bottom, and edge and let this one fall into place. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. Now the beauty of any card that you create, you can change up the colors, change up the papers, change up the decorative images, and create so many different versions with that the same layout. So here we have this. Now what I'm going to talk about is this brace piece. I already have that cut to size. It's 8 1/4 by 1 3/4. It's scored at 2 1/8, 3 1/8, 5 1/8, and 6 1/8. So it's going to be valley, mountain, mountain, valley. Now I'm going to also take my bone folder and crease these. So I'm going to burnish those. And this is going to be the brace for the decorative panel pop-out to be on. So I'm going to just kind of show you how this works before I put adhesive. Adhesive is going to go on the end panels. It's going to form an upside down T and hold on to that. With adhesive here and adhesive here, you're going to make a valley in the center of your card base. Look for equal spacing on the top and bottom. Place those right in the crease of that card, and then close those panels to adhere to the adhesive. I have tried different ways of putting this together, and this was the best way that I found to put it together, and just adhere both of them at the same time. So adhesive on both ends. You have adhesive back to back here and here. Hold this and make sure it forms your upside down T. Hold on to it with your fingers. Make your valley. Put the edges or ends of that card base right in there. Look for equal spacing here and here. Just eyeball it, doesn't have to be perfect, and close those panels up onto it. That's going to adhere that brace. Now we're going to talk about the decorative panel. I am using the countryside corners to make my decorative panel. I've taken the largest one, which the piece of cardstock I cut this out of, I was able to cut a larger panel out of here. So I did that ahead of time. And then I took the next largest one and cut it out of my designer series paper. So I got that work done ahead of time. I used my cut and emboss machine to do that. I purposely put this over to the edge because I'm going to use the rest of this paper. I'm going to cut out those flowers and use them to embellish my cards. This card and future cards, you have all of these beautiful images you can cut out and decorate with. So that's how I created these. So I'm going to adhere the smallest one. I always put the adhesive on the smaller of the two pieces I'm adhering together. So I'm going to look for equal spacing on all edges. You've got ends and corners, lots of things to look at to get that to be equal spacing. Now, as I mentioned, this is going to be my decorative images. So I'm going to have it look up this way. That'll be the top of the card. I want to add a ribbon to this also. Well, if I tie the ribbon around this panel, it's going to fall off the card. So I have a trick for you, is to make a hole in your project. And so I'm going to make a hole. I have this big hole punch. Any paper punch you have, just make a hole. It needs to be a little bit bigger if your ribbon's wider. My ribbon is a 1/2 inch. It is the 1/2 inch white woven ribbon. It is really pliable. It's great for making bows or tying knots. So I've cut an angle here. How this works is you're going to take the ribbon, start from the top and go to the bottom. So thread it, keep it on the spool, thread it from the top to the bottom. Then you're going to pull enough out here that you can wrap all the way around. Now I say all the way around. You're not going here. You're going all the way around and going to go back in the very same spot. So let me get enough ribbon. I want to tie a bow versus a knot. So again, all the way around. And then what you're going to do is just make a space there so you can see that hole. Thread it through. Get that tail to start coming out. There we go. Now you want to make sure that nothing is twisted here. So I need about that much for my bow. So the rest of it I'm going to tuck back in. But let me tell you something else. This tail needs to be on the top of this ribbon, and this tail is on the bottom. You want that ribbon between, this one should be on the top. That's how I like to do it. So now I'm going to tighten this so it's nice and snug, no twist to it. And as I mentioned, it go from the front all the way around and from the back to the front. Now what I'm going to do is make a loop with the bottom one, take that top one, wrap it around the loop, and then right where my index finger is here, I'm going to bring another loop right through there. So I'm tying. Now what you do is you just tighten everything. So let's see, I'm going to tighten the top part of that one. Let me start over. Make my loop down here, wrap that around, and I'm trying to explain what I'm doing when it's just kind of second nature on how I do it. So then I'm just going to tighten tails, hold on to loops, to just get this so the loops are the size I want them to be. And that's a way you can put this on a card and not have to worry about the ribbon falling off. And then just trim this one, and then you can trim this one. And as I mentioned, I kept it right on the spool. I don't measure how much ribbon. So I wanted to put that on there. That's a little bit extra work. You don't need to do that, but it's going to add a little bit to the card. Now this panel is going to go onto this piece. I want it flush to the bottom. Otherwise, if it's right in the center, when this card opens up, it's going to topple upside down. So it's going to be flush to the bottom. So what I want to do is bring a tool in. You can bring a simply scoring tool in, or your paper trimmer, something with a wall. Now this currently doesn't have a top or bottom, so it doesn't matter how I put this, but this needs to be the bottom. If this had a direction, this is the bottom of your card. You're going to hold that up against the wall, put adhesive just on that portion of the brace, turn this upside down, look for equal spacing on both sides here. And so I'm going to look for equal spacing. I can turn this or form it that it does not touch the adhesive, so I can kind of see my spacing, pushing both up against the wall, and then let that fall down. That way it's nice and flush there, and now it's attached like this. Now when I designed my first cards with this, I had decorative designs here that was kind of the additional decorative. Now this background is pretty plain, and I realized that we can put things on this panel and have them hidden, so when the card is closed, I sure didn't get that on very straight, but we're going to pretend it's straight. We're going to pretend that's even. I'll fix that later. But what we want to do is put our panels in underneath here. So what I'm going to do is bring Post-it notes in. I have a couple Post-it notes off on the side, and this is really bothering me. I didn't get that on straight. You know what, maybe I'll go ahead and I'm gonna just pretend let's pretend it's straight. That's part of the video that happens when you do this. So what I'm doing is I'm putting a Post-it note right here, and I'm putting a Post-it note right here. So what I'm doing, let me explain how I'm going to do this. I'm going to look for equal spacing from that point to that point, from here to here and here to here. That's going to help me if I know that this is equal and that's equal. So I'm going to put that down. What I'm doing is I'm putting this Post-it note down so I can visually mark where I do not want to put my added layer. So as I mentioned, if you put your Post-it note there, when you open that up, that tells you that I can put anything in that space. If I go where the Post-it note is, it's going to be visible when the card is closed. I'm going to fix this alignment later. I can still use this as my sample here. So in saying that, these dies work out perfect. The smallest is this little banner. The next smallest is a small countryside corner die. I'm going to take this size. If I cut something that size, that's going to be perfect to put right there. And I did that ahead of time. And I even stamped them ahead of time with pecan pie ink. I used a stamp set that's called Labeled with Love. It's called Labeled with Love. I used this Happy Birthday and this Enjoy Today for my project, or for this card. So I'm going to put the Happy Birthday on this side, and I'm going to put the Enjoy Today on that side. So by putting that Post-it note where I did, as I mentioned, that tells me I want to put my card or this in this area. What I can do is put it really fairly close to that Post-it note if I choose. And also by aligning this Post-it note up equal with this spacing and that spacing, that helps me align this up. Then what I can do is I can just look at this and say, I want to align that so it is like, it's about the same height as the Post-it note, right? Now I am going to look at this with about 1/8 of an inch spacing there. You wouldn't have to worry about that if you put this panel on correctly, but as you can see, mine is off side. It's not equal. So what I'm going to do here is, instead of looking for the spacing to the Post-it note, I'm going to look for this spacing being equal, this spacing being the same as that, and that being flush, and that's going to help me place these. So as I mentioned, now when you close this, you take your Post-it notes off. Now you can't see those, you open them up, and now they're visible. I just love adding that, especially when you don't have a decorative design on those panels. I already shared to save these to cut out your flower images. I cut these out of different pieces, but they're going to, you could cut this one up. Maybe it's the same, maybe it was the same print. Yeah, it was. It was this flower here and that flower there. That's what I cut out for this card. So I'm going to bring my silicone craft mat in, put some adhesive on the back of this, and this flower is going to go right like that. Now this flower was cut from the edge. That's totally okay, because now I'm going to just attach that right to the edge. So I'm going to put this one, oh, it's stuck to my finger. Here we go. I'm going to put that one right to the edge. And so now I have that helps decorate the card. Now we have this, but I'm also going to add a little bit more embellishments. We have these tiny bead trinkets, and they are so cute. You get several. I've used these for a few projects, so I don't have too many left. But I have mini glue dots that I'm going to attach these with. And so I'm going to put one on a mini glue dot. The mini glue dot is larger than the bead, so I'm going to take my take your pick tool and push that mini glue dot underneath the bead so it's not exposed. Pick this up, and I'm going to have this one flying that way. I'm going to add one more onto this, and I already put that on a mini glue dot, and I have it tucked underneath, and I'm going to have this one flying right here. So that is how I decorated this card. So let me kind of move a few things out of the way here. I do have another sample I want to share with you, and I want to talk about this sentiment layer. On my measurements, I have that sentiment layer. And if you were not able to sign your card right here, which I'm not able to because I made that all decorative, what I have is this 1 7/8 by 5 1/4 that I'm going to adhere to the back of the card. This is where I would write my message and sign the card. So that is my Decorative Panel Pop-Out Fun Fold with the Floral Delight. And as promised, I have another sample. Now this sample is with a different designer series paper for the decorative image, a different one from that same packet for the side panel. Now I brought in 2 colors, and you can see here that I created another layer of cardstock here just to pop that out a little bit. And that is 1/8 inch larger than this size right here. So if you want to do that, you just increase that and use some of those floral pieces on this piece of paper here to help decorate that. And as I mentioned, if it's on the edge, still utilize that. Put it on the edge of your label. And this was such a fun card to create. I hope you enjoyed this fun fold. I do have another fun fold I shared on a previous video. This is a center slider easel card. It's with the same product. I'll put a link to this video on my blog post and to my on my video tutorial. Plus, I will link the video tutorial for my January 2025 fun fold, which is this Decorative Panel Pop-Out Fun Fold. Each month I have a different fun fold, and if you place an order with me, qualifying order, you get everything cut and ready to assemble this card. Plus I have a little mini card in there that goes onto your instruction postcard. You get a link to the video tutorial to assemble it, plus a free PDF. The PDF only is sent out to customers who place orders with me. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I hope you enjoy these fun folds. If you have any questions, as I mentioned, reach out to me. Take care and happy creating.